All right, everybody, welcome back to the TXRF podcast. I got another bonus episode for you today. And I know I kind of indicated that I wouldn't be doing any more of those, but I think this one's interesting. It doesn't warrant a full episode, but it doesn't warrant a YouTube video because I'm kind of just rambling. But anyway, this is going to be me talking about some of the favorite games that I have been to in person, and just great memories from that. I have a rough list of some, probably starting off with my favorite ones. So that's what we're going to be talking through today is some of my favorite games that I have been to. I've been lucky enough to be at a couple of these. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. The first one that I have here is the Adrian Beltre 3000th hit game. As many of y'all know, I never shut up about this. It is the coolest game by far that I got the chance to go to, and a little bit of backstory. I don't remember exactly when the game was. I think it was in July, and sometime in like February or March, we got tickets for that game by chance because it was against Baltimore, and some of my cousins were coming into town, and they're from Baltimore, so we wanted to go see a game with them. Well, it just so happened to be the game where he got his 2,999th hit. I can't remember, but I think he also got 2,998. So that happened to be the game they came in town for. It was like a sold-out crowd in Globe Life Park, of course, and it was insane. I wish he would have gotten it that night just because the atmosphere was so crazy. But unfortunately, in his last at bat, I think he walked. And as soon as we were on the way back home, I went on my phone. I bought tickets. I texted my good friend who I go to a lot of games with. And I was like, dude, we're going to this game. Like, I don't care what your schedule is. Drop everything. We're going to see Beltre get his 3,000th. And sure enough, in like the first or second at bat the next day, he gets it. This was on a Sunday afternoon, so much less people were in the stadium to see this. I think it was maybe like 15 to 20,000, which is sad because it was still Beltre getting his 3,000 hit, even though it wasn't the electric Saturday night environment, but he was still getting it. And it was the coolest thing I've been able to see. If you're curious to see what my reaction was, you can go on my YouTube channel. I've posted it, and it's me yelling quite loudly, but many of y'all know he's probably my favorite player of all time, and certainly one of my favorite Rangers. It's kind of a tie between like him and Pudge, and more recently I've been more partial to Juan Gonzalez the more I've learned about him. So that's the first game I wanted to talk about. Start off with the all-time favorite of Beltre 2,999/3,000 hit games. I still have my ticket stub from that because I buy all my tickets online. But for that game, and especially because there weren't a lot of people there, they were exchanging online ones for actual ticket stubs. Not of your exact seat, but a ticket stub nonetheless. So I have that still in a frame along with the game from the previous night because we ordered those and they mailed it in. So I have the ticket stubs for those, and they were giving out like some cool cards and like a little thing you could put it on to frame it, and they had tons of extras because no one was there. So I have like 8 of these cards that say like Beltre 3000 hit and one of the frames and a couple ticket stubs. So I want to talk about that game first because I could almost dedicate a whole video podcast to it. Another one that I want to talk about is opening day of 2018. And this was the first and so far only opening day that I've been to. I think this is like my senior year of high school, so you do the math on that one. But my parents would never let me go to opening day. And this one year, because it was like my last year, they're like, okay, you can go now. Because obviously those games are during the day, so you got to skip school for it and blah, blah, blah. So like all the years I'd been begging to go to opening day, and it finally happened, and it was one of the coolest things just generally that I've ever been to, honestly. They did lose. I believe it was against Houston, and my dad called that George Springer would hit a home run on like one of the first pitches of the game, which did happen. This was because we kind of had like a running joke the few games we'd gone to, George Springer would just smash home runs all day. And he was like, oh, I bet he's going to do it again here. And then, of course, it did happen. So, really great memories there, even though they did lose, I think. It is still always a fun time to be at opening day. Unreal atmosphere, hard to describe. If you haven't been to one yet, please do that as soon as possible. Staying on the same vein, though, moving on to another game. And for almost all the other ones I'm going to mention, a lot of these didn't actually have to do with the games themselves, at least for what I can remember. But with that being said, the next one I want to talk about was the Beltre number retirement ceremony. They, of course, retired number 29. He was the last one to officially wear it. I think there was maybe another guy who came in and had it for like a week or something. I don't remember. It might have not even been during the season, but it was pretty much unofficially retired until Texas finally did it. And that was cool to see him. That was like one of his first appearances after retiring that I could remember. So always great to see him. And it was at the old ballpark too. So very cool. Similarly, the Pudge retirement game for his number 7, which I think that was the number I was thinking of. That Delino DeShields at one point had number 7. So I don't think anyone wore 29 after Beltre was gone. But I do believe Delino was the last one to wear number 7. That was a great game as well. You know, Pudge is a great guy. Whether or not you think he did steroids is besides the point. He's just a good dude. And great ball player, of course. One of the best franchise players the team's ever had. So it was great to see him, and he got his props for his career. So 29 and 7 are retired alongside, of course, Michael Young, 10. Johnny Oates is 26. Nolan Ryan is 34. And then league-wide retirement of Jackie Robinson. Moving on, this is the one of the last ceremony games on this list is Chuck Morgan and Adrian Beltre Hall of Fame, Rangers Hall of Fame game from this season. It was actually the last game I went to, I think. That was great to see Chuck Morgan getting his share of respects and Beltre being in the new ballpark. You know, at one point I was seriously expecting him to still be playing at this point. I thought he was going to make it to the new ballpark, but deservedly so. He got to retire on his own willpower, which is something not a lot of players can say. I mean, yes, he was starting to be injury prone towards the end of it, but he was still good. I mean, one of his last seasons, he hit 300 with 30 home runs and 100 driven in at like 37 or something. I mean, it was ridiculous, the kind of stuff he was doing at the end of his career. So seeing Chuck, seeing Beltre, all cool stuff. And finally, we got a couple games that are actually ones that I was glad to see based on game, not just the pregame stuff. I think with going back real quick, I think the Pudge game, they did win it. It was like 40 something thousand people there. Definitely one of the larger baseball crowds I've ever been in. But I think they did win. I don't remember though. And next is another game from this year, which, surprise, right? To have 2 games from this year on the list. But Adolis Garcia's walk-off versus the Astros. That was a great game. I actually only decided to go to that game because it was Houston's first game back in Arlington since the cheating scandal, since fans could be back in, because, of course, they had 2020, and some of the players retaliated, but no fans got to give them the business yet. So I have a ton of videos on my phone of me booing Altuve and all that good stuff. But the game did culminate in a Adolis Garcia walk-off home run, which did land. I was sitting in the upper deck in right field. It did land in the lower deck, I think, or maybe bounced off the top of the facade of the second deck. So that was cool because I think it was a comeback game as well as just an overall pretty good performance by Texas, and it's great when you beat the Astros. Next game I wanted to talk about was Bartolo Colon pitching in 2018. I don't remember the date, but on my Instagram I have a little story highlight called 2018 games, and it was kind of documenting a lot of the ones that I went to that year, which wasn't horribly too many games. I think I went to maybe 5 or so. And this past year I went to close to 10, I think. I mean, I really tried to up the amount of games I went to despite the unfortunate outcome of the season. But this is more of one that was just entertaining, like for the meme value of seeing Bartolo. I think that was his last year, was it? Or maybe he got a 2019, but probably his last close to full season. And it was just hilarious. I mean, the dude's a unit. I know he's a bit controversial now based on things people have found out about him, like with the whole thing with he has like 2 families or something. I don't want to say anything that's not true here, so you can do some research if you're interested in that. But despite all that, obviously a big funny guy, you know, the way MLB marketed him and all that, and the iconic home run off of James Shields to send the baseball world in a frenzy. I mean, you know, that was there's so much that's hilarious about that clip. I don't think he got any hits when he was with us, but that clip is so funny. It's like the Bartolo with a drive to deep left field. Uh, the way they commentate it, and the guy's like, "This is one of the great moments in baseball history." That's just so funny to me. Moving on from that, though, the last game that I want to discuss, which was actually maybe not a fond memory, but it was one of the more interesting ones that I've been to, was the Vlad Senior Hall of Fame, like National Hall of Fame game, and the Rangers honored him for his short tenure with us, but a great tenure at that. And they gave out a bobblehead that had his 2010 stats on it. Don't know if they won that game, but if you're noticing the theme here, I go to a lot of games where there's like a incentive or some kind of event happening. Based on the pictures I have here, it looks like they did win. So there you go. But I think that's going to be just about it for this bonus episode. It's a bonus episode, you know, it's not supposed to be long. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. In the comments, definitely share some moments y'all have at games with me, you know, good, bad, anything in between. These are the big ones I could think of. I thought about it for a while. And I mean, I know there's a lot of games I go to that I forget stuff because they lose. I was notorious for never seeing them win until like probably the 20th game that I went to. And that's over the course of like 2010 to now. The first game I went to was in 2010, and then I went to one in 2011, I think. I have zero memory of that. I went to one in 2014 that I have no memory of. And then from then on, really, once I started my page, I started going to games exponentially more, which, like I mentioned this year, I probably went to like 10. And a lot of the stuff I tend to forget because of the outcomes of the game. But these are the ones that stick out. Obviously, the Beltray 3000 hit game is the most clear in my mind because I think about it a lot. But with all that being said, let me know if you all want to hear about more things like this on the podcast. And before we wrap this up officially, I do once again want to plug my SeatGeek code is TX Rangers. Save yourself $20 on tickets to whatever you want to see, sports, concerts, anything in between. I know there was an ad at the beginning of this as well. That's actually the official ads built into Anchor, so I'm finally getting some monetization on that. It's not a lot, but it's a start. And now I will shut up and wrap up this episode. So I appreciate y'all listening. Be sure to check out the YouTube, the Instagram, Twitter, going to be trying to do things like this more often in the off season, generate some content until we get some news, hopefully. So once again, thanks for listening, and I will talk to y'all later.